So, given the goings on in the gaming world over the course of the past week, as well as some of the topics of my more recent videos, I felt it would be good to discuss what we know about Nintendo's slate of games for the rest of the year, their holiday slate, a recently revealed massive date for one of their exclusive titles releasing by the end of 2025, and how everything kind of fits together and what we can maybe take away from their slate of games going into the rest of the year, as well as the few release dates that we still don't know. Now, obviously, the big news of the past few days is Kirby Air Riders, which is the sequel to the GameCube game Kirby's Air Ride, or Air Rider. I never remember what the exact title is. I think it's Kirby's Air Ride, and I've discussed it, since Air Riders 2 was announced back in April, that I played the game for like a day or two back when it came out on the Nintendo GameCube when I was working for GameStop and we were allowed to check out new games for like a week or two. And I just didn't care for it. It didn't do anything for me, so I stopped playing it, I returned it, and I never went back because I didn't care for it. But of course, we did have that reveal back in the April Switch 2 Direct that confirmed a sequel was coming out before the end of this year, in 2025. So that was not only a crazy reveal simply because, holy crap, there's a sequel to Kirby's Air Ride, but also it's going to release this year, the same year as the Nintendo Switch and the first Switch 2 Direct. They're giving us that confirmation. It was pretty crazy, and it was certainly exciting. Even as a non-Kirby's Air Rider fan, I certainly was excited at the prospect. And so that brings us to this past week, and I obviously discussed it on my last video as well. I'm sure you guys know all the details, that out of nowhere, we got a Kirby's Air Riders 45-minute Direct, which was just absolutely wild for a title like that. But we got Sakurai treating us to a bunch of information and reveals and gameplay and details about Kirby's Air Riders 2, and the fact that it also ended with the release date, which to everyone's surprise, whether you're me, whether you're you, whether you're a Metroid fan, a Kirby fan, or all the above, to everyone's surprise, it's like the big November title. It is November 20th of this year. Obviously, a shock to all of us. It doesn't matter what video game franchises you prefer over the others, okay? That's not the point of this. The point is, no one really saw a game of that caliber and that maybe smaller scale and smaller appeal, which I only say because it's a spin-off game and not a main Kirby game. So less appeal with like a Kirby spin-off game. No one really saw that being like what we would consider to be the holiday title, being like the November big tentpole release for Nintendo, and also releasing only days before the Black Friday shopping season, which in not in North America, in the United States, is a very, very big deal. And a lot of gaming companies try to time the releases of their biggest tentpole titles around that Black Friday shopping season. And that's what Kirby's Air Riders is. It's November 20th, man. It's like right before Black Friday. I'd have to check the date, but it's probably within a week of that time, because it's the last Friday of November every year around Thanksgiving and all that fun stuff. And so it was a surprise. Obviously roped into that was the fact that Kirby Air Riders information actually preceded any updates about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and the release date, which I talked about in my last video. Everyone has been fighting about on the internet, and yes, as the biggest Metroid fan in the world, I was certainly shocked, surprised, disappointed, totally blindsided by the fact that Kirby got the update before Metroid. But it is what it is, and so that leaves us with a Samus-sized hole in the slate for the rest of the year. We're still waiting for that date, and we're also still waiting for information about Hyrule Warriors. And so now we're getting a clearer picture of the holiday and fall lineup for the Switch 2, what Nintendo's first-party offerings are for the back half of 2025. I know they just released that Dragon Drive game, but nobody cares about that. What we do know is still on the slate, and that has official dates, by the way, is the Kirby DLC for the Forgotten Land, which is a Kirby game I am super excited for. And that DLC releases, next Thursday, actually, on the 28th, August 28th. So that's coming up just next week. I loved Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the Switch. I cannot wait to purchase the DLC for the Switch 2. I think it's going to be fantastic. So that's releasing in the next week. Then, of course, in October, I think October 16th, is the new Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends ZA. and that's obviously going to be a massive Titanic release. I will not be playing it. I do not care for Pokemon. I'm sure it'll be great for Pokemon fans, and that's fine. I won't be playing it, but it's going to be massive, so that's the big October title. And then, of course, like I already said, we just got information that Kirby will now be releasing in November. It is certainly a little bit shocking, and not in a bad way, so don't take this as a complaint or anything. But it is pretty shocking that there are 2 high-profile Kirby releases in the launch year for the Switch 2, in the back half of 2025, within the first 6 months of the release of Nintendo's next generation. There are 2 Kirby releases, right? One of them is just DLC, sure, but it's pretty significant and important DLC, and everyone's laser focused on it and very excited for it, myself included, like I said. And then, even though Kirby's Air Riders, I keep saying it wrong, Kirby Air Riders. I don't know why I want to make Kirby plural every time I say it out loud. Sorry, guys. Kirby Air Riders, like I said, it is a smaller tier, more niche title, yes, because it is a spin-off, okay? Not a mainline game, it's a spin-off. But at the same time, I think it is still also significant, and it's made more significant by the fact that it seems to be their tentpole November holiday release. So 2 Kirby titles over the holiday is pretty weird and surprising, but like I said, it's cool, man. I won't be playing Kirby's Air Riders, but I'm definitely picking up that DLC, so that's going to be very cool. Now, of course, the bigger topic at hand, the most important topic as far as I'm concerned, is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. What the hoo-ha hell is going on with Metroid, man? Give us our Samus. We are freaking drowning out here waiting for anything, man. Just the damned release date. So I don't want to spend too much time on that part of it. I literally just made a 20-minute video kind of sharing all of my crazy thoughts about the lack of release date and the missing information and Kirby kind of taking the place of Metroid in terms of new updates and blah, 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 blah. So I will say it is certainly very surprising that we are still, with only 4.5-ish months to go in the year, we're still waiting for the release date on Metroid Prime 4, which Nintendo has doubled down and is constantly reaffirming is a 2025 game. And I believe them, okay? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that they're lying when they tell us 2025. They're still saying it, and I do believe them, even though it feels like a delay might be coming. At this point, they keep saying 2025, so I'm just going to take them at face value and trust them. So what's going on with Metroid now that it's not the game that got the big update like Kirby did? It's not the game that we expect to release in November, so when will we see it? I'm going to double down on what I've said twice in the past, 2 weeks on my videos. So maybe this is a triple down. I think that even with Kirby and the Direct and the release date happening this past week, I still think, as I said in a video a week or two prior, that we will get the release date for Metroid Prime 4 in August. I'm recording this on August 22nd. It is Friday the 22nd. I still think in the next 9 days, we're going to get the release date, which means next week. I think just like they surprised us with Kirby info this week, none of us knew we were going to get a Direct. None of us knew we were going to get the release date in the Direct. None of us knew that it was going to be the November title until we saw that Direct. Just like all of that happened out of nowhere this week, I think the same will happen next week for Metroid. Although you could argue it's going to feel less out of nowhere because I think we're all kind of on pins and needles waiting to pounce on Metroid information. We all expect it. We're waiting for it. The game was announced so long ago and rebooted so long ago. Everything I said in my prior video, right? That we all are thinking every single day might be a surprise announcement of a release date or a new trailer or a Metroid Direct or a delay even, whatever the news would be. Every morning we wake up, especially Metroid fans like me, thinking, is this the day? Do we get the Metroid news this morning? So that's why it would be a surprise because it's not confirmed to happen next week. But at the same time, I think a lot of us are still looking out for it. Now, I know there is the constant, never-ending discussions around Nintendo Direct. Every week, there's a new rumor about the next Nintendo Direct. In fact, I would say the day that we're all watching the next Nintendo Direct, there's also going to be rumors and leaks about the Nintendo Direct after that. It's flipping insane. I've kind of gotten really annoyed and frustrated with the Nintendo Direct reliance in the Nintendo and the gaming community lately. And there was even some drama and hubbub surrounding that in the past month. I'm sure you guys know all about that. I actually thought that experiment was kind of fascinating. I know it made a lot of people pissed off. I didn't find it offensive or problematic at all. I thought it was very interesting. And I think it did highlight a problem. And the fact that whether there are legitimate rumors or not, just the fact that it's all anyone cares about, and on the internet and YouTube, it's all anyone wants to talk about. It fuels entire YouTube channels, man. I just think it's kind of corny and it's not awesome. So that was a tangent. The point is, back to the Metroid thing. While I do expect an update about Metroid this next week, there's also people expecting a September Nintendo Direct. And look, it's very possible. Nintendo always does a September Direct, so why wouldn't they do it this year? If they do a Direct in September, is that when they're going to give us Metroid info as opposed to next week by itself? Maybe, but the reason it's not my current train of thought is because I actually think Kirby Air Riders benefited by being its own separate thing. It had a whole week dedicated to the announcement of the Direct itself, the announcement of the release date, 45 minutes worth of gameplay, interview and informations directly from Sakurai himself. And I feel like that is the template Metroid Prime should follow. And it's part of why, again, there was that frustration from myself as a Metroid fan. Even though I'm not mad at Kirby and I love Kirby, that's why the frustration was, well, why did Kirby get this treatment before Metroid? I think both games deserve the exact same thing, but just Metroid being announced so long ago and still with the 2025 date is why I was like, shouldn't we have gotten the Metroid info before Kirby? But whatever. Again, Kirby's great. I love the Direct. It's fine. Even though I won't play the game, it was a great Direct and it's fine. And so Kirby getting that treatment is exactly what I think Metroid would benefit from. Think about it, you guys. Forget a 45-minute Nintendo Direct in September that has 45 different games in it, right? We know about Metroid Prime 4. We've seen footage. We've seen Treehouse gameplay. At this point, if they did the exact same thing for Metroid Prime next week that Kirby did this week, think of what that looks like. That's an entire week and an entire, I don't know, a handful of days dedicated to Metroid Prime 4 in the news cycle. Oh my god, a Metroid Prime 4 Direct was announced. Oh my god, the Metroid Prime 4 Direct was amazing. Oh my god, the release date for the game is this. Look at all of this new gameplay we get to talk about, and it will be the only thing in Nintendo's world getting the spotlight. I mean, okay, Kirby DLC releases next week as well, so Nintendo would have to maybe have Metroid and Kirby sharing that spotlight. But even with the DLC release, I still think Metroid could dominate the news cycle and get all of the attention this game truly deserves if it gets this Direct and information by itself, independent from a larger 45-minute Nintendo Direct that I'm sure will be amazing. Metroid would have most of the week to itself. That's exactly what this game deserves and how it becomes the success it should be. So, to round out the Metroid part of this and then maybe kind of start to wrap up this entire conversation, to talk about when the game could release, I'm just going to be honest, man. I think the most likely release in a world where next week we get a Nintendo Direct or we get some sort of significant announcement for Metroid Prime 4, even if it's just the date, even if it's a date combined with like a 3-minute trailer that really showcases the gameplay. Maybe it's even, an overview trailer. They love to do 5 to 10 minute overview trailers. Maybe it's just that. So if they do something sizable and significant for Prime 4 next week, I know I'm going to get pushback on this. And this is not a prediction. This is just me thinking out loud. So don't overthink this. I think December is possible, man. It just makes a lot of sense. I've said this so many times. Nintendo has used December at least 3 times that I can think of for significant game releases in the past, decade. So, in 2015, 10 years ago, Xenoblade Chronicles X released on the Wii U. That was a massive deal and a massive game. And then in 2017, I think people forget this sometimes, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 released in December. And then the best example possible, I want to say this was 2018, Smash Brothers Ultimate. I don't remember what year it was. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, the biggest and most high profile of all of these titles, also released in December. And that game didn't struggle to have hype behind it, and it certainly didn't struggle for sales, because it sold like whatever, 20, 25 million units. I don't know the number, but it sold like crazy, as it should have, because the game was amazing. So if Nintendo can release Xenoblade and Smash Brothers games in December to critical acclaim and large sales success, what's stopping Metroid? In fact, Metroid almost becomes the perfect candidate for a December release, because I think it falls in that more Xenoblade tier of games that it's known for high quality but has never been a massive seller. I think Metroid games sell better than Xenoblade on average. I might be wrong on that, but they're probably in the same ballpark, right? And I love both franchises, of course. So why couldn't December be an option? If they could announce in August Kirby for the end of November, why couldn't they also announce in August Metroid for the beginning to middle of December? I think it makes sense. So again, not a prediction. I'm just telling you that I see December as an option. Could they also release it in October or November? You know, like in between Pokemon and Kirby? They could. I feel like it would be a little bit unfair to Metroid Prime 4 to sandwich it between two other big game releases, but it's possible, and I think the game is still going to do well no matter what. But I sometimes wonder if it has a better chance of success all by itself in December, you know, and I just don't think that it's impossible. September is the other thing everyone talks about. What's happening in September? I mean, right now, I don't think Nintendo has anything slated for September. Daemon X Machina, the sequel to that, is releasing on the Switch 2 in December, which is cool. The first game was exclusive to September. The first game was exclusive to the Switch, but the sequel is not exclusive. So it's great that that cool-looking game is coming to the Switch 2 in September, but it's not exclusive. And, like, dude, how is Nintendo going to get away with revealing Metroid Prime 4 in the last week of August, or maybe the first week of September in a larger direct, give us that date for the game, and then also release it in September 3 weeks later? I just don't see it happening, man. And if it does, great. We get the game sooner than later, and I'll make a video talking about, holy shit, I can't believe they did this. But I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. Does it to you? I would be curious if you guys think that a September release for Metroid makes any sense at this point. So, I don't know. This is kind of my discussion covering all things Nintendo for these last few months of the year. What we know about dates, the new information about Kirby Air Riders releasing in November, the mystery around Metroid Prime 4, and when I think that might happen if it sticks to 2025, which again, I believe it will. And I briefly mentioned Hyrule Warriors. I don't know what's going on with that game. It's probably going to be like a Q1 2026 game. I think that's what's going to happen. You know, because most of winter is the beginning of the year. It's like only the last 2 weeks of December or whenever that is. So, you know, it's probably going to be a Q1 2026 game. But it's weird that it's still a game we're waiting on a date for as well. Like Metroid and Hyrule Warriors, what are we doing, you know? Hey, they popped the seal with Kirby. They gave us the date for Kirby, so maybe now they're going to give us Metroid, and then soon after that, they're going to give us Hyrule Warriors. Perhaps that's what's happened. So, anyway, these are my thoughts about all this crazy stuff and what's going on with Metroid and holiday game titles. Share your own thoughts below. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and I will see you next time.